Not too long ago, I was quite the professional. My friends and I, we were the creme de la creme in an exclusive industry. And we all worked for this man, Bill. Then one day, I decided to leave, settle down and start a new life. But when I tried to get out, they did me in.
Don't you ever wake up.
I guess they should have tried a little harder.
So I suppose it's a little late for an apology, huh?
You suppose correctly. Now it's kill or be killed.
You have every right to want to get even.
Get even? Even Steven? I would have to kill you. That'd be about square. And I choose kill.
Mommy, I'm home.
Hey, baby. How was school?
One ticket to Tokyo, please. One way.
That woman deserves her revenge. And we deserve to die.
No kidding, I heard it was kind of hard.
Silly Caucasian girl likes to play with samurai swords.
Yeah. Any more subordinates for me to kill?
Hi.
You didn't think it was going to be that easy, did you?
For a second there? Yeah, I kind of did.
Silly rabbit.
Hard part's over.
Welcome to the latest episode of the B Movie Club. I'm your host, Kevin. This week we'll be discussing the 2003 martial arts classic, Kill Bill Volume 1, starring Uma Thurman, Lucy Liu, Vivica A. Fox. It's an all-star cast. For those of you joining us for the first time, each week on the B Movie Club, I discuss certain guilty pleasures and forgotten classics of the past. Go ahead and go to our page on Facebook, Original B Movie Club, and give us the big thumbs up. Don't forget to go to our page on YouTube at KD9575 and hit the subscribe button. It's totally free. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at the B Movie Club. Get all the latest updates anytime I post a video, anytime I find a link to something particularly B-movie-ish, I just pass it on to you. Don't forget to spread the word, the more the merrier. So tell your friends, neighbors, strangers, and enemies, if you will. So there you have it. Good times had by all. Kill Bill Volume 1. In this movie, a character known only as the Bride is seemingly murdered on her wedding day by unknown forces. But she wasn't really murdered. She was put into a coma for 4 years. We discover she was a member of a group called the Deadly International Viper Assassination Squad. And for reasons we don't understand yet, they turned on her. She was known as the Black Mamba because she was the most deadly woman in the world. So they put her in a coma, assuming that she would just be there forever. She'd just never wake up from her coma. So they go on with their lives. So 4 years later, the Black Mamba, or the Bride, wakes up suddenly, escapes from the hospital, but now her legs are all atrophied and crazy. I always wondered why that would be. It's like, I understand why your legs would be atrophied, but her arms are fine. She's like crawling on the ground. Her legs are like dead, dragging behind her. I'm not sure how it works. I've never been in a coma per se, okay? But it's all very complicated. She escapes is having to get her body back in shape. She's able to will it just by kind of trying to make her toes move using her mental fortitude, I guess. It's all very interesting. So the movie actually starts out with her visiting one of the people who attempted to assassinate her. She shows up at Vivica A. Fox's house. Not her character. Jeannie Bell, who is secretly Vernita Green, codenamed Copperhead, who's 4 years later is now living a quiet life in Pasadena with her doctor husband and their young child. The Black Mamba busts in there. They start fighting, doing knives and things. Boop, boop, boop. Spoiler alert, takes care of old Vivica A. Fox. Sorry. Moving on. She's now decided to really take on the people who assassinated her. I'm going to keep saying assassinated, even though they didn't. She has to go after each member of the team, including the leader of the team, who we know only as Bill. Okay? We don't see Bill. We hear his voice occasionally. Occasionally you see like a hand. And that's Bill. Evidently, he was the leader of the group. He's the one who trained her and helped her become the most deadly woman in the world. But he's made some enemies along the way. So her next thing to do is she flies to Okinawa to meet the legendary master of swords, the guy who makes all the katana swords for the finest swords. But 30 years ago, he made a blood oath never to make another sword. So she goes and visits him, Hattori Hanzo, who's now working as a humble sushi chef in Okinawa. She convinces him that he must forsake his oath and make her a new sword because the vermin that she's out to get is none other than Bill. And evidently, Hattori Hanzo also has his issues with Bill. So he forswears his vow, makes one more sword for her, and it's his most finest sword ever. She immediately takes her sword and goes to Tokyo, where now she's going to meet the next member of the deadly International Viper Assassination Squad, O-Ren Ishii, codename Cottonmouth, who is now risen to be the head of the Yakuza in Japan. So it's not just her she has to battle, it's her bodyguard Johnny Mo, her sidekick Gogo Yubari, and her army, the Crazy 88. So the bride goes to this club, restaurant that they're visiting, and she goes and takes out O-Ren Ishii's lieutenant, Sophie Fatale, chops her arm off, and basically challenges O-Ren to single combat. O-Ren's calls upon all of her Crazy 88s, and they all attack. Sort of like 100 people come rushing in with swords. She's taking care of all of them. She's jumping over stuff, slashing people, chopping. It's a very violent scene. Blood is flying everywhere. People are trying to eat dinner. They all bail. People are dancing. They take off because there's a massive sword. She's jumping over things. She's kicking butt. Let's just say it like that. Eventually, she has dispatched everybody, including Johnny Mo and Gogo Yubari. And now it's just down to the Black Mamba and the Cottonmouth. So they're on top of the roof. They're doing their thing. And spoiler alert, it ends with poor old O-Ren Ishii biting the dust. Now, the bride is still trying to track down Bill. So she's taken Sophie Fatale, who's now minus an arm, dragged her off somewhere, and is essentially torturing her to find out information about where she can find Bill and the rest of the deadly International Viper Assassination Squad, or Divas for short. Hey. So she tortures her, but she leaves her alive for two reasons. Number one, to let Bill know what she knows, and that she wants Bill to know that she knows. Did you get all that? I hope so. And, as a warning, and also just to show her what kind of woman she is and how capable she is of just, being a badass, essentially. So we see Bill comforting Sophie, who only see from like the neck up, like from those Larry H. Parker commercials. He got me 2.1 million. That's all that's left of Sophie. Evidently, that's all we see. And spoiler alert, he reveals, because at the beginning, when she was the bride, at the beginning of the movie, she revealed that she was pregnant, and he killed her anyway, or tried to. At the end of the movie, it's a grand reveal that, she thought she lost her baby in the coma. No, the baby was born, and now there's a 4-year-old daughter with Bill. So, to be continued. So there you go. I basically told you everything that's happened in this movie. This movie has a lot of influences, as you might imagine. Quentin Tarantino is a big fan of 70s cinema, particularly kung fu movies and martial arts films. He loves Sonny Chiba, for example, star of the Street Fighter movies. You remember those. Not the video game, but, the stuff in the 70s. Okay, so he loves all those things. So he was actively trying to emulate a lot of things they did. But it's interesting because this was the first movie he had done that might be considered an action movie. Everything else were kind of these kind of crime drama things going on there. So it's a stark departure because traditionally, in my opinion, one of Tarantino's greatest strengths was his kind of dialogue, his real-world conversations that may not necessarily have drive the plot. It's just people talking. There isn't a lot of that in this, so there isn't that snappy repartee so much. It's much more plot-driven, much more character-driven rather than dialogue-driven. So because he'd never shot an action film before, he literally had to teach himself how to do it. All the angles, all the edits, all that good stuff. So it was a total departure. And he brought in a lot of veterans from China and from Japan to help him guide what he was doing to make sure he made a more accurate depiction of what he was going for. And again, he cast a lot of people that he really liked. He brought in Sonny Chiba to play Hattori Hanzo. So that, one of his heroes from way back when. Now in the 90s, while he's working on Pulp Fiction, him and Uma Thurman were sitting around chit-chatting about what kind of movies they'd like to do and see in the future. And they had talked about making a martial arts film and Uma actually came up with the idea of a bride in a wedding dress gets attacked in the opening film, and it's kind of a revenge film, what they were going for. So when he eventually wrote the script, he only had Uma Thurman in mind. She was always going to be the bride. So that was kind of an interesting thing they were going for. And there's a fan theory that in the middle of Pulp Fiction, Uma Thurman's talking to John Travolta about Fox Force 5, about a female band of assassins or whatever they were. People think that the Fox Force 5 is actually the deadly International Viper Assassination Squad. So that's a fan theory. It doesn't match up perfectly, but occasionally it kind of works out. So good times. Now, Quentin Tarantino had a lot of ideas about who he wanted to play the role of Bill, who you don't even see in this movie. Talked about Burt Reynolds, Kurt Russell, Mickey Rourke, Kevin Costner. Talked to Warren Beatty. All these actors turned him down. It wasn't the type of movie they were looking to do. When he spoke to Warren Beatty, he said, you know what, this is a martial arts movie. Why don't you go get David Carradine, who was in Kung Fu in the 70s? Sounded perfect. Quentin Tarantino went ahead and kind of rewrote the role a little bit, because when it was going to be a Warren Beatty type, he was going to be more of a James Bond, international man of mystery. And when you cast David Carradine for it, suddenly he's playing a pan flute and wearing beads, and he's got a kimono on. And so he changed it a little bit, but it seemed to work, right? Now, originally, this was just going to be one movie. And the finished script was 220 pages. And as they were filming, he kept adding new scenes. He liked what one plot line was going, so he added to it or changed it and rearranged it. And eventually, he after filming it, he sat down and talked to the Weinstein brothers, who've distributed all of his movies, and said, you know what, why don't we chop this sucker down into 2 movies, give them each their due, and that way each part will get its own moment. We won't have to cut all the good stuff down to make a 2-hour movie. Now I can have 2 2-hour movies, essentially. So they decided to do it that way. And I think it worked quite well. There's one scene in it That's this animated kind of a backstory on O-Ren Ishii. And now that was inspired by a number of things. There was a Indian movie that Quentin Tarantino had seen where they used, they animated the violence. They thought that was an interesting choice. So he kind of took from them, and then, but the animation style was very much anime. He wanted to really kind of draw on these multiple influences and such, so that was kind of interesting. Lucy Liu was cast as O-Ren Ishii. Now, originally, he wanted to hire just a straight Japanese actress for this, but then he saw Lucy Liu in that classic Shanghai Noon with Jackie Chan and Owen Wilson, and he rewrote the part to accommodate her. So there you go. Daryl Hannah is in this movie as another member of the International Viper Assassination Squad named L. Driver. And it's interesting because it's the first thing I had seen Daryl Hannah in like 15 years, but she looked good, not too shabby. I mean, you know, I think the last thing I saw her in was like Splash or something. So good for you, Daryl Hannah, coming on back and doing your thing. So that's Kill Bill. They, like I said, they went ahead and they released the sequel a few years later. One thing that they talked about is they wanted to actually represent 3 different nations while making this movie to kind of pay homage. You had Sonny Chima from Japan. You had Gordon Liu, who played Johnny Mo, and in the second movie played Pai Mei from China, and of course David Carradine from America. David Carradine, contrary to popular opinion, not Asian in any way, shape, or form. I don't know what the story is. He's just white, okay? There's no Eastern influences in his life other than he was cast in that TV series in the 70s. So good times had by all. This movie currently has an 85% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. It did very well at the box office, enough to justify releasing the second half a few years later. People really appreciated the idea that the main character, the hero of this film, was a female, and she was a badass. She wasn't the damsel in distress. And a lot of the villains she was going after were also female badasses. So that appealed to a lot of people. Because her character was obviously a female character, but it was kind of like, it didn't play to any particular stereotypes. It was just, she's a badass. It doesn't matter if she's a man or a woman. So that was kind of interesting. People liked that. Did well in the box office. For a long time, Quentin Tarantino talked about if there was going to be Kill Bill Volume 3 and Volume 4, but it's been a few years now, so who knows. There was talk that Vernita Green's daughter was going to come and try to get revenge upon the Black Mamba. There was talk of people that were disfigured in the Battle of the House of Blue Leaves, that they would come back and seek revenge, but it's been a while. Quentin Tarantino has gone on to other things, so there you have it. Good times had by all. It is still streaming instantly. This and its sequel are streaming instantly on Netflix, so rush out and check it out. Let me know what you think. Send any favorite scenes, favorite quotes, comments, or questions, and I may just talk about it on the show. Next week, I'm doing the sequel. Why move on? I can't just leave this story right in the middle, right? Because it's literally right in the middle, okay? It's like, you know, this is Han getting stuck in the carbonite. You know what I'm saying? It's like we got to find out what happens next. So next week I'm going to be doing Kill Bill Volume 2. So check that out. They go together. Okay, you got to watch them in succession like that. Just, it's a good rule of thumb. So check that out. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to go to our page on Facebook, Original B Movie Club. Give us the thumbs up. Don't forget to go to our page on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. It's totally free. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at the B Movie Club. As you know, I end every episode with a totally out of context quote, and here it is. It's mercy, compassion, and forgiveness I lack, not rationality. There really weren't a lot of really funny lines in this, so you do what you got. You work with what you got, you know what I'm saying? So, thank you for joining us. Next week, Kill Bill Volume 2. Be well.